Hey, Live on Purpose family. I've been podcasting Live on Purpose Radio for 12 years, and I've figured out how to conduct a quality podcast interview. Listen in. Here's the background behind today's topic. I have been podcasting since 2007. That's before podcasting was even a thing. I was doing live radio at a local station here in Utah. And when the programming changed, I realized that I loved it. I loved what I was doing. I always did interviews on this live talk radio show. A friend of mine approached me and he said, "Dr. Paul, why don't you just do podcasting?" And I'm like, "Pod what? What is that?" I had never heard of it. Remember, this was 2007. He explained to me that it's kind of like internet radio. That's how it made sense to me. And I'm thinking, well, does anybody ever listen to that? Will we have any audience? He said, "Trust me, it's going to be big." Turned out he was right. I started my podcast, Live on Purpose Radio, in 2007. It is now 2019. And I've been doing weekly shows that entire time. It may be one of the longest running podcasts on the planet. And it's always an interview. In those 12 years of experience doing regular interviews, I've learned a few things. That's where I'm coming from. If you want to do an interview, which I strongly recommend, it helps to keep the podcast fresh. At least for me, that's my preference. That's my format. I like to do an interview. Obviously, the first question is, who am I going to interview? Vet your possibilities. Look into your potential guests in a way that helps you to know, first, is this person a good fit for my theme, my audience, the format of my show? If they're not a good fit, there's probably another podcast that they will be a good fit for. So don't try to fit everyone into your podcast. Make sure they're a good fit for the show. Read their book, visit their website, find out about them so that you know who you're interviewing. Now I'm going to share with you what I've learned over these years to create a really great interview. And I get feedback all the time from people, celebrities, authors, speakers, people that I interview who say, "Dr. Paul, you're really good at this," meaning the interview. Here's what I do. I start from an assumption that it's my guest, not me, that is the hero of this show. My job and my secret agenda, I guess it's not a secret anymore because I just told you, my agenda is to illuminate the brilliance of my guest. I want all of my audience to look at that guest as an expert, as someone who is inspiring, as someone who has just contributed some amazing things to their life. That's my goal going into the interview. And that has served me really well. People respond to that in really favorable ways because they kind of want to be the hero anyway. Having them on your show gives them the honor and the privilege of the platform to be that hero for at least a few minutes while they're on your show. My next tip for you, do not follow a script. Now, yes, you have some idea of the flow and the direction that you want this to go. Following a script puts an artificial structure on it that seems a little clunky to a lot of the listeners. I like to keep it much more conversational. I also like to have the ability to take off on a little tangent if it makes sense for my audience. Not having a script gives me the feel that I'm just in a friendly conversation with this person, and it helps me to create the comfort that allows them to be a better guest. Probably one of the most important things about interviewing someone on your podcast is asking relevant questions. Not from a list of questions, although you may have some to guide you, like I said before, but asking those questions that draw out the experience and the principles and the powerful, insightful comments that can come as you question and interview your guest. After you've asked the question, listen. I can't emphasize this too much. You have to listen to their response. It irritates me and annoys me when I'm listening to a podcast and the interviewer asks a question, and while the person is responding, they're not listening, and you can tell because of how they respond. They're not listening, they're looking up the next question that they want to ask their guest. Or they're thumbing through in their own mind whatever it is that's going on in their mind without listening. You listen. When you ask your guest a question, listen. Listen intently. Listen for the purpose of identifying the brilliance of what that person is saying. Because after they've given you the answer to the question, you're not going to move on to the next question. Not yet. This is a powerful strategy that will make your podcast stand out above others. You listen to their answer and then expound on it. You can add one of your own insights. You could ask a follow-up question to something that they said. You can probe a little deeper. Show them and your audience that you're paying attention, that you're engaged in this conversation, so that it doesn't become all superficial and phony. I tell you what, listening to your guest's response is far more important than getting to all of the questions on your list. If you have to leave some of those questions off, that's great. Don't worry about that. They're just guidelines anyway. You want to dig in a way that creates a richness and a depth and an authenticity to that interview that your audience will appreciate. And not only that, your guest is going to love you for it because you're making them look really good. Listen. Shall I say that again? Listen! Okay, got it? Along those same lines, create a personal experience here. When I'm interviewing an author, for example, people have access to that person's book. They can go read the book. I've read the book because I want to know what this person's all about before they come on my show. I want to get personal with that author and show the audience a side of that author that they don't get from the book, that they don't get to hear or see. Get personal. And I'm not saying, pry into really private, sensitive issues. I'm not saying that. I'm saying ask a more personal question. Something like, you know what? I can tell that you've had some personal experiences that have led you to think whatever it is they just said. See, and you're weaving in what they've already said. Tell us who inspired you, or tell us a little bit about the experiences that brought you to this place. See, we're drawing out those personal experiences. Last week I was doing an interview where I was actually interviewing another podcaster, and this happens occasionally. Those of us in the podcast community, you know that you can trust other podcasters to show up and be a pretty good guest sometimes. And as I was interviewing this other podcaster, he said, Dr. Paul, man, you really are good at this interview thing. And I'm thinking, really? Am I? Because it comes so naturally to me after those years of practice. I didn't realize what I was doing. He and I together broke it down. We analyzed it a little bit, and there are a few key things that I do that had him feeling like I was doing a really great interview with him. Let me share with you what we came up with. One of the phrases we identified was this. I'll just share it with you the way that I say it on the show. Wait, what you said just now was really insightful. I don't think we should gloss over that. You said, and then I repeat what the person said. Okay, now look how I set that up. I'm listening, okay? I noticed something that he said that I felt was insightful that maybe he's taking for granted. I bring the conversation back to that, and then we get to expand that topic a little bit. Here's another one that you'll hear from me if you listen to my podcast. Hold on, you just said whatever they said, as if everybody knows it. Okay, and then we open up that topic in the same way. What I've done is just to emphasize something brilliant or insightful that my guest just shared. These phrases and others like them don't feel very formal. And that's my preference as a podcaster. I want to keep it conversational. I want to keep it fresh and authentic. I also want to keep a focus on my guest as being the hero of the show. It's not about me. I'm there to illuminate the brilliance of my guest. And these kinds of phrases help to do that in a way that edifies not only my guest, but the audience, everyone who's exposed to that particular episode. I love doing these interviews. I have a shelf at my office that is filled with books from guests of my show. In fact, if you haven't been on my show, your book isn't on my shelf. I had to clear all the other books off just to make room for my guests. I call it my shelf of fame. And as I'm wrapping up today's episode with you, I want to acknowledge something. This is my human treasury. This is why I do it. The relationships that I can build with brilliant, amazing people through interviewing them and edifying them on my show has been such a rich blessing to me over these past 12 years as I've run my show, Live on Purpose Radio. I hope your show goes well and that you can get some good benefit from the tips we've talked about today about interviewing someone for your podcast. I hope your podcast is going really well. If you want to check out mine, it's Live on Purpose Radio. There's a .com for that, or you can find it anywhere you find your podcasts. I saw standing in the street.